Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on his way to attend the 6th Annual Quad Leaders Summit in Wilmington, Delaware. PM Modi will also hold bilateral meetings with US President Joe Biden, Australian PM Anthony Albanese and Japanese PM Fumio Kishida. In Sri Lanka, voting for the crucial presidential election concludes peacefully with a reported turnout of 70 to 80%. Counting of votes begins with postal ballots being counted first. And tens of thousands of people told to evacuate the quake-hit Japanese region of Ishikawa as unprecedented rains trigger floods and landslides. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi embarked on a 3-day visit to the United States of America. A meeting with his host, President Joe Biden, is the first item on PM's agenda on Saturday. Both leaders are slated to discuss issues of mutual importance as well as those related to global and regional development. Prime Minister Modi will also attend the annual Quad Summit at Wilmington in Delaware, which will provide him an opportunity to interact with his Australian and Japanese counterparts, along with President Biden on pressing global issues, the Indo-Pacific and the conflicts in Ukraine as well as the Middle East. The Prime Minister will address the Summit of the Future at the UN General Assembly in New York on Monday. In his departure statement, Prime Minister Modi said, "The Quad Summit has emerged as a key group of like-minded countries to work for peace, progress and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific region. Meeting with President Biden will allow to review and identify new pathways to further deepen India-US comprehensive global strategic partnership." The Prime Minister said he was eagerly looking forward to engaging with the Indian Diaspora and important American business leaders who are the key stakeholders and provide vibrancy to the unique partnership between the largest and the oldest democracies of the world. The Prime Minister added that the Summit of the Future is an opportunity for global community to chart the road ahead for the betterment of humanity. The Quad Summit is being hosted by US President Joe Biden in his hometown of Wilmington on Saturday. Our correspondent Amritpal Singh is in Wilmington, the US state of Delaware. This is the first stop of Prime Minister Narendra Modi during his present visit. Get a glimpse of the host's venue, excitement of residents and what is in store for PM Modi's Day 1 from Ground Zero.
When Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives here in the United States on a 3-day visit, his first stop would be Wilmington in Delaware State. He will hold a bilateral meeting with US President Joe Biden, followed by bilateral meetings with his Japanese and Australian counterparts Fumio Kishida and Anthony Albanese. Prime Minister later will participate in the Quad Leaders Summit here. Delaware, in fact, is the home state of President Biden. It's a state where President grew up. In fact, President Biden has chosen this school called Archmere Academy, which is a private school on the suburbs of Wilmington, where President Biden studied.
This is really awesome because this is where President Biden studied and now such a big thing is happening here. So I'm really excited for what's going to happen.
It's a big honor. It's like really a big deal to be at the same school that the President of the United States of America went to.
It gives me a lot of pride and honor that my school is chosen.
The 4th in-person Quad Summit will review the progress achieved by the grouping over the past 1 year and set the agenda for the year ahead to assist the countries in the Indo-Pacific to meet their developmental goals and aspirations. They will also be looking at areas of cooperation in areas like maritime security, high-quality infrastructure, critical and emerging technologies, cyber security, health security, natural disaster response, and climate and clean energy. The leaders will also be addressing a small event called the Cancer Moonshot event here, where they'll be speaking about what their respective governments have done in their terms to deal with the scourge of cancer. In fact, President Biden is hosting this meeting here in his school to give it a personal touch, as this will be his last meeting. In fact, both for him and for Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, as they are hanging their spurs later this year. With cameraman Kuldeep Sharma, this is Amritpal Singh for DDI India in Wilmington, Delaware.
Addressing Summit of the Future at the United Nations in presence of the leaders from the member countries is one of the major agendas of India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi during his visit. India's permanent representative to the UN, P. Harish, explains the importance of this summit and India's role in helping nations of Global South meet the challenges of the future.
The focus has been, what can we do to reboot the multilateral system, to make it fit for purpose to deliver development to the world's majority. I think with this in mind, the Summit of the Future process had begun, and India actively participated along with all other nations in this process. What can we do to achieve sustainable development goals, have an SDG stimulus so that we can try to reach our Agenda 2030 objectives? What is it we can do more to contribute to achieving our goals on climate change? What is it that we could do in the digital arena to leapfrog development and give a leg up to countries in the Global South so that they can cover the distance that they could not all these years? What more we can do to transforming global governance, to ensuring that the institutions are fit for purpose for this new era? And most importantly, it is about the youth of the world. India is able to provide all the necessities for its people. When India is able to harness science and technology, digital platforms and digital public goods for 1.4 billion people, when India is able to ensure food security, energy security, and develop new paradigms of development, and be a model and make these available to our friends and partners in the Global South, I think that makes a huge impact, and that is the true importance of India. And when Prime Minister comes, I think his message would be the example that he has set India on this development process.
As the United Nations holds the Summit of the Future at its headquarters in New York, one of the pillars of the summit is the science, technology and innovation, where the UN will try and achieve a digital global compact to use technology for humanity equitably. Listen to the 6-year-old Ranveer Singh Sachdeva, the youngest participant at the UNGA Summit of the Future.
As the United Nations holds the Summit of the Future here at the UN headquarters, one of the pillars of the summit is science and technology and innovation, where the UN will try and achieve a global digital compact to use technology for humanity equitably, to have youth participate in it. I have with me one kid who's not even a youth, he's just a 6-year-old child, Ranveer Sachdeva, who's traveled all the way from Delhi here in New York to participate in the Summit of the Future. He's written a book on AI. Ranveer, thank you very much for speaking to us. First of all, tell us, why are you here?
So I'm here traveling from India to, and I'm the world's youngest participant in the Summit of the Future, which is a part of the UN General Assembly. It mainly targets on how youth can impact the AI world for world peace. So I'm here to attend the Summit of the Future.
Okay. You're not even youth technically, you are just a child right now, a 6-year-old child. What grade do you study in?
I'm studying in third grade.
Okay. So how do you think as a child AI affects you or the other children of the world?
So AI affects us in many different ways.
Okay.
I've always said that us, our generation is born with AI, because AI is all around us. We ask Alexa, right from your conversation with Alexa and Siri, to YouTube and Netflix suggesting you more songs and videos you like to watch. It's all AI.
Okay, and I understand you've written a book. What is the name of the book?
Are you born with AI?
Okay, and you say you are born with AI?
Yeah, because it's all around us.
Okay, great. So as Ranveer Sachdeva says, AI is all around us, but more importantly, he's here as the youngest participant here in the Summit of the Future. Well, if this is the future, then it looks bright. With cameraman Sumit Naudyal, this is Amritpal Singh for DDI India at the UN headquarters in New York.
In 1993, the US State Department and the American Council of Young Political Leaders invited a young Indian politician to a special program starting from Washington, D.C. Starting July 10, 1993, Narendra Modi, then a BJP Gujarat worker, set out on a learning expedition to the US. This visit, which took place between July 10th and 23rd, included a series of meetings set up by the US State Department with political leaders, senior administrative officials, American policymakers, and representatives from the trade industry. During his visit, Narendra Modi gained extensive exposure through discussions about American politics, foreign policy, and other matters with prominent congressmen, senators, governors, and mayors. In Houston, PM Modi got the opportunity to tour the Houston Medical Center, which is one of the largest in the world, and made a special visit to the NASA facilities at Space Center Houston. During this visit, he also gained exposure to the country's political ideologies and legislative structure. He interacted with various local trade, commerce, and economic development authorities. And India's Union Minister of Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal co-chaired the 21st ASEAN-India Economic Ministers meeting in Laos's capital, Vientiane. The event saw participation by representatives from 10 ASEAN countries that discussed progress in the ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement. The Indian minister highlighted the importance of strengthening trade and investment between India and ASEAN. During his visit, the minister held a meeting with President of the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East India. Both leaders identified ways to resolve trade barriers, improve regulatory frameworks, and promote policies to facilitate smoother trade flows in the region. Piyush Goyal held bilateral meetings with several ministers and discussed matters of trade and economic partnership with ASEAN countries. He also interacted with the Indian community in the capital and emphasized how they can contribute to new opportunities for collaboration between India and Laos. Twelve 1,200 soldiers of the Indian and the US Army conducted a mega joint military drill in the deserts of Rajasthan. The 20th edition of the India-USA Joint Military Exercise Yuddh Abhyas 2024 was held at Foreign Training Nod in Mahajan Field Firing Ranges, Rajasthan. The Indian Army contingent, comprising 600 personnel, is being represented by a battalion of the Rajput Regiment, along with personnel from other arms and services. The US contingent, comprising similar strength, was represented by the troops of 1 to 4 Battalion of the Alaska-based 11th Airborne Division of the U.S. Army. The joint military exercise that commenced on the 9th of September concludes on Saturday. This year, the focus is on operations in a semi-desert environment. India's Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Bhupinder Yadav, participated in the International Coastal Cleanup Day drive and the ongoing Swachhata Hi Seva, or Cleanliness is Service campaign at Juhu Beach in the western Indian state of Maharashtra's Mumbai city. Maharashtra Governor, Chief Minister Eknath Shinde and others were present on the occasion. CM Shinde administered the cleanliness oath to all attendees. Indian Minister Bhupinder Yadav urged citizens to participate in the Cleanliness Fortnight and encouraged them to plant at least one tree as part of the Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam, or One Tree in Mother's Name initiative. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Polling for presidential elections in Sri Lanka concluded. Stay with us, we'll give you more details on it. Ibrahim Aqil, a top Hezbollah commander, killed in an Israeli strike. Indian men's chess team to face USA in round 10 of Chess Olympiad 2024.
We are looking at new and emerging dimensions in India's most important strategic partnership with the United States.
From Washington's standpoint, India, I would say, is a rising part of our economic portfolio looking globally. It's now one of our 10 largest trading partners. And again, if any company has got offshore R&D and IT, it's probably coming first to places like Bangalore and Hyderabad. What we've seen just in the last couple of years is a shift away from transfer of technology, of selling things to India, and of exercises, which are all great and they're fundamental, but we are now moving actively into interoperability.
You're watching DD India Live. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj. And in Sri Lanka, polling for presidential elections has concluded with reported turnout between 70 to 80%. The voting remained largely peaceful with stray incidents of election violations. Counting of votes began this evening with postal ballots being counted first. The Election Commission has said that results for the postal votes will be announced later tonight, while the final result will be announced tomorrow. Sri Lankan presidential elections follow a preferential voting in which a voter can mark up to 3 choices. A candidate needs to poll over 50% of valid votes to be declared winner, else the second preference votes have to be counted. A close contest has been anticipated between the front-runners, even as there are 38 candidates in the fray. The three-cornered fight, Ranil Wickremesinghe, Anura Kumara Dissanayake and Sajith Premadasa have campaigned primarily on the issue of economic stability, while the issue of corruption has also figured during the campaign. Americans began casting their first in-person votes on Friday in a presidential election less than 7 weeks away. These Democratic supporters in the Midwestern state of Minnesota were out early to make sure their voice was counted in the tight presidential race. Voters in Minnesota, South Dakota and Virginia can now go to the polls in person, while Minnesota and South Dakota voters can also mail in their ballots. Minnesota is the home state of Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Walz. The Georgia State Election Board ordered the counties on Friday to hand count the votes in U.S. presidential race. Georgia's Elections Board voted 3-2 to require the hand count despite the objections of the state officials and poll workers. The move is favored by right-wing officials in the battleground state, who claim the rule will prevent miscounts. While hand counting of ballots is common in many countries, including the UK, it is extremely rare in U.S. elections. The rule passed on Friday requires 3 poll workers in each of the state's 6,500 voting precincts to begin counting ballots on election night. A top Hezbollah commander, Ibrahim Aqil, was killed in Israeli strike in Beirut on Friday. At least 31 people, including senior operatives in Hezbollah's operations staff and commanders, were killed in the strike on Beirut's southern suburbs. Hezbollah has confirmed the commander's death, calling him one of its top leaders. The aftermath left buildings damaged streets covered with debris and fallen power lines in the region.
The strike, Akhil and the commanders of the Radwan forces were gathered underground under a residential building in the heart of the Dakhia in Beirut, hiding among Lebanese civilians, using them as human shields.
An election campaigning gains momentum in India's Jammu and Kashmir. Senior BJP leader and Union Minister Amit Shah held a public rally in Mendhar. The minister made strong political attacks on the opposition parties during the rally.
के बाद जितनी भी लड़ाइयां हुई पाकिस्तान से, हिंदुस्तान का सिपाही बनकर यहां के बासिंदों ने भारत की रक्षा की है। जब 90 के दशक में फारूक अब्दुल्ला साहब की मेहरबानी से आतंकवाद आया, दहशतगर्दी आई, तब भी सीनों पे गोलियां मेरे पहाड़ी और गुर्जर बकरवाल भाइयों ने झेली हैं।
And let's take a look at other stories making news today. The India Meteorological Department has forecasted isolated heavy rainfall over several parts of the country during the next few days. Heavy rain is expected in the Indian state of Odisha, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram and Tripura. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar visited Silvassa in Dadra and Nagar Haveli on Saturday. Addressing a public function, Vice President stated that India is one of the most preferred investment and opportunities destination and will be the third largest economy in 2 years. The closing ceremony of the joint military exercise Yuddhabhyas 24 between the Indian Army and the US Army was held at the Mahajan Field Firing Range in Rajasthan. The exercise focused on counter-terrorism operations in semi-urban and semi-desert terrain under the United Nations mandate. In sports, Bangladesh need another 357 runs to win the ongoing first test match against India in Chennai. At the end of day 3, Bangladesh were at 158 runs for the loss of 4 wickets as early stumps was taken owing to bad light. For Bangladesh, Najmul Hossain Shanto remained unbeaten on 51. For India, Ravichandran Ashwin continued his dream form following up on first innings 100 with figures of 3 for 63. Earlier, Shubman Gill and Rishabh Pant's ton helped India set a target of 515 runs, giving Bangladesh a huge mountain to climb to win the test. India declared at 287 for 4 on day 3. Rishabh Pant scored 109 runs, while Shubman Gill slammed 119. Afghanistan won first ever one-day international series against South Africa thanks to Rashid Khan's brilliant spell and Rahmanullah Gurbaz's ton. After beating South Africa for the first time ever 2 days ago, Afghanistan scripted history by defeating South Africa in the second ODI to clinch the series. Afghanistan thrashed South Africa by 177 runs, which is the biggest ODI win for the team by runs. Rahmanullah Gurbaz's 105 made him the first Afghan man to hit 7 ODIs hundreds. Afghanistan put 311 for 4 on the board, while South Africa got bundled for 134 runs, courtesy of spectacular bowling by Rashid Khan, who took 5 wickets, and Kharote, who bagged 4. Afghanistan will now look to whitewash South Africa and sweep the series clean in the final ODI on Sunday. Indian men's chess team will face USA in round 10 of the Chess Olympiad on Saturday. On Friday, India's winning streak came to a halt as defending champions Uzbekistan held the team to a 2-2 draw in the 9th round in Budapest. D. Gukesh, R. Pragnananda, Arjun Erigesi and Vijit Gujarati all drew their respective games, keeping India at the top of the points table. Gukesh held world number 6 Abu Saturov to a 3-fold repetition draw, while Vidit and Jahangir Wakhidov finished their match in a quick draw. Despite early pressure, Pragnananda managed to draw against Javokhir Sindarov. International master Vantika Agarwal defeated Grandmaster Irina Krush to help India secure a 2-2 draw against the United States in the 9th round of the women's section at the 45th Chess Olympiad. Where the Grandmaster D. Harika rested, R. Vaishali lost to her opponent on the top board, and Divya Deshmukh held Carissa Yip to a draw. Tanya Sachdev, despite a strong position, settled for a draw against Alice Lee. Vantika's victory equalized the score, keeping India's hopes alive with 15 points and a strong push needed for gold. The draw also meant India slipped to second position while Kazakhstan reached the top. That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.